Thank you, Chair Sanders. Today we're considering 4 nominees. I will speak on 2 in particular. First, I appreciate Dr. Bertagnolli for making herself available throughout the process. The NIH clearly needs leadership to move the agency forward. I was talking to Coach Tuberville this morning. I think he pointed out that it's been 20 months that they've been out with such leadership, without such leadership. She has extensive experience as a clinical researcher, practicing surgeon, and in positions of leadership at NCI and the Harvard Medical School. She's been strongly endorsed by the scientific community. I also called some researchers I know. People come here, they're so coached. You have no clue what they really believe and what they think. I think they do a disservice to the people who come before us. But I called people who had worked with her or who otherwise were involved with NIH, although outside of the NIH. They spoke of her integrity, her fighting for the underdog, and commitment to intellectual honesty. And I appreciated her refusal to commit to extreme and counterproductive drug pricing policies like march-in rights and reasonable pricing clauses. When pressed, she committed to following the law. As I pointed out in her confirmation hearing, the law is clear and so is the history. And to be clear, that these are policies that even Biden administration officials have admitted to this committee could risk further future partnerships to develop life-saving cures. In fact, we've seen this same scenario through the Clinton administration, when former NIH Director Harold Varma stated, when rescinding the reasonable pricing clause policy, extensive review indicates that the pricing clause has driven industry away from potentially beneficial scientific collaborations, and eliminating the clause promotes research that enhances the health of the American people. Close quote. Research America, an alliance of hundreds of organizations advocating for biomedical research, expresses concern about these policies that would, quote, discourage the uptake of breakthrough discoveries by the private sector. This would be detrimental to patients, close quote. We cannot repeat our past mistakes doing things that ultimately harm future patients. If confirmed, I expect Dr. Bertagnolli to listen to the NIH experts who have consistently concluded it is not the NIH's role to weigh in on drug pricing. I'll be watching her work closely to ensure she does not bow to political pressure from progressives. I'll also hold Dr. Bertagnolli accountable for her positions on fetal tissue research and informed consent. It is a basic expectation that she and all nominees follow the law as she committed to during her hearing. I remind her and this administration that fetal tissue research has failed to demonstrate significant scientific value, and that our lead science agencies cannot bow to political pressure or ignore basic bioethic principles because this fact may be unpopular. We can and must find better, more ethical ways. I also want to reemphasize that if confirmed, we shall hold Dr. Bertagnolli to her word that she'll respect the oversight authority of Congress and not bow to political pressure from progressives. This administration has developed a pattern of circumventing congressional authority and then stonewalling oversight to avoid accountability. This is unacceptable and needs to end, and is an offense to Congress, no matter which party is in control of Congress. We need the next NIH director to engage with all parties and demonstrate clear leadership if we have hope to rebuild the trust that NIH has lost with the American public and Congress. If she is confirmed, I plan to work with her and hold her to that challenge. The NIH is desperate for leadership. Dr. Bertagnolli is qualified. She said she'll respect congressional authority. One more thing. As I was thinking about this, I take seriously that as a physician who has worked with those who have worked with the NIH, and perhaps most aware of the granular nature of what the NIH does with our medical leadership, and as ranking member of this committee, it's my responsibility to make the decisions or to make the recommendations as to who can best and at what time can they best lead our research entity. For that reason, I have decided I will support her nomination as she is qualified, and I think she will provide the leadership we need now. Dr. Bertagnolli is not the only nominee receiving a vote today. The committee will also consider the renomination of Charlotte Burrows to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. She's not had a hearing in this committee since 2014. Since President Biden made her chair in 2021, there's been a troubling pattern of partisanship, mismanagement, and a lack of transparency of the EEOC. Last week, I sent a letter to Chair Sanders expressing my disappointment over his decision to hold a committee vote without a hearing on her nomination and requested that he reconsider. And I ask unanimous consent to submit that letter for the record.
Without objection.
Unfortunately, the committee is moving forward to vote today on a problematic nominee without any accountability for many concerns held by members of this committee. These concerns should be bipartisan on a committee which has the responsibility of oversight. For example, Ms. Burrows' leadership, the commission has failed to produce a regulatory agenda or update annual reports from its Freedom of Information Act e-library as recommended by the Justice Department. That's something that all of us should be concerned about. Even if she happens to be a Democratic appointee, we should all be concerned about. Additionally, there have been multiple instances where EEOC has opted to issue technical assistance instead of guidance, subject to comments by outside stakeholders. There's no reason that EEOC should refuse to listen to the stakeholders whom their guidance is impacting. This is a basic principle of good governance, and my gosh, if it was a Republican chair, wouldn't Democrats be asking the same? And to this, I submit for the record letters from business organizations, including the National Retail Federation, calling for a hearing on Ms. Burrows over these issues. Perhaps most troubling is that submitted for the record. Perhaps most troubling, the Commission has established a pattern of ignoring a congressional intent and clear statutory language to insert their own political agenda. Again, to my Democratic colleagues, imagine if a Republican was ignoring congressional intent and clear statutory language to pursue their own political agenda. You would be concerned. We are about her. As one example, a recent example, in EEOC's proposed Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, PWFA regulations, it illegally categorizes an abortion as a quote, related to medical procedure. Regarding clear legislative text and congressional intent that abortion is not included. This includes floor statements by my colleague, Senator Bob Casey. Now, by the way, they're going to lose in court, but that injects uncertainty and, frankly, a lack of trust in the process by all those stakeholders, including the Catholic bishops who supported the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act because of this legislative text and congressional intent. It's unacceptable that EEOC would inject abortion politics into a law with such strong bipartisan support. The EEOC is responsible to implement and enforce laws as written by Congress, not how some of the commission members wish it were written. By the way, the law is written, I'll repeat this, in such a way that if they attempt to do this, they're going to lose in court. But this uncertainty is something that we in Congress attempted to eliminate. Burrows also unilaterally withdrew lawmaking that had advanced out of the EEOC by a majority vote and provided wellness guidelines for businesses wanting to set up voluntary programs to benefit their employees and encourage healthy lifestyles. Since the EEOC has taken no new action on this topic, employers are now unable to move forward on these programs or have dropped them entirely. Addressing concerns like this is exactly why committees should hold hearings for controversial nominees that will lead agencies over which we have oversight. It's disappointing that we did not, especially with a nominee who has substantial influence over our nation's employment discrimination laws. I will vote no on her nomination and encourage colleagues to do the same. With that, I yield.